So apparently the mute button for streaming was not on. So they couldn't hear us on stream. They could hear us on the radio, but they couldn't hear us on stream. But so we got that. So let me clarify again. Last week we had Mayor Chris Fletcher from Burleson talking
Okay.
about the city bond. There's two propositions, A and B. One's about the streets, the other one's about our fire and police. And but today we're talking about Joshua ISD's bond,
Right.
and we're just kind of dig into that and see some. Hopefully, can you bring some pros and cons, or what do you think?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Absolutely.
So again, we have Georgia Brighthead here visiting us, and she's going to tell us a little about herself and how she kind of got more involved in this than probably expected.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you. First of all, thanks, Nona and Tiffany, for having me.
Oh,
I've known y'all for a while and been friends with you, but I've never been on the radio before. So,
always a first.
yep, okay. And I'll try not to laugh too much. I'm a natural giggler. I just laugh. So I'll try not to laugh so much because nobody wants to hear all that. But um, I grew up in the Joshua ISD. My parents bought land here in 1967 and moved me here. I won't tell you how old I was, but yeah, it was a long time ago. It was more than 50 years ago, and started building their house. Now we live out in the country and it's still outside the city limits. We have a Burleson mailing address, but we're in the Joshua School District, so Joshua ISD.
Yes.
I started kindergarten before public kindergarten was even a thing. I went to kindergarten at the First United Methodist Church in Joshua, and then I went to school, at Joshua ISD, first through 12th grade. Do I need to move that?
Yeah,
Okay,
up closer.
Up closer. Okay, sorry. And I graduated from high school there. I married my high school sweetheart. He graduated from Burleson. We had met at church. I started dating him when I was 17, and we're still together. So that's however long that's been.
Awesome. He's a sweet guy.
Yeah, he is. Anyway, then we went to college. We moved out of state, and with his job, and we stayed out of state for 25 years and raised our boys. Well, now they are grown. We have two boys, and that happened fast. And our parents are not getting any younger. His daddy's 88, and then my parents are in their upper 70s. And so I inherited some land that had once belonged to my grandparents and then once belonged to my parents. And then I'm on that land now where I grew up and where I grew up playing. And Ben and I live there in our empty nest, and mom and daddy are close so we can watch them.
That's
and
good.
his daddy's right around the corner so we can keep an eye on him. And
That's wonderful.
yeah, so that's why I'm back. That was kind of always the plan, that we would come back someday. And so here we are. So my background's education. I have been a teacher for 26 years. I taught in another state. I retired, and I now I work doing a lot of contract educational work, testing, test prep, and that kind of thing. So I'm still teaching high school students. I'm not in the classroom every day. I retired from that life, and anyway, that's kind of my background. So I've got an educational background. I have a heart for students. I taught mostly in Title I schools, which are schools full of economically disadvantaged kids. They are my pure heart. I mean, I just, and in fact, you wouldn't believe all the students that still call me and text me and, hey, Miss Head, how's it going? We miss you, and, all that. So
I understand. Yes.
Yeah, you've got teacher background.
Yes.
So yeah, when they're your kids for life. So
I just saw one Sunday as we were finishing eating Sunday night. They were eating also, and she was like, ah! And I was like, ah!
And the funny thing, my first group of students, they're now in their 40s, and some of them have become some of my closest friends. And it's like,
yeah,
this is kind of weird that I used to be your teacher, but,
right?
I'm like, don't call me Miss Head, because
yes, I know, right? I know. They're like, I feel weird not calling you Miss Reed. Well, you're a grown adult now, and
we're friends.
have like 3 kids of your own.
Right?
It's okay to call me Nona now.
Yeah, we're all on the same, same wavelength. So anyway, that's my background, and I had always thought I've always kind of dabbled in politics a little bit. My mom works on a lot of campaigns, and as I would come home or visit when I was out of state, I would sometimes help her do stuff like that. So it's always
Mhm.
been an interest of mine. Or elections are an interest of mine. Education is a huge interest of mine, and now that I'm back in the school district, I do want to get more involved. I am an empty nester, and it's time for me to, I thought, well, I could start volunteering. I could start working on some things. And this bond proposal, the JISD board passed the, oh, I guess the measure to have it put on the ballot back in February.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that's when I started kind of delving in and saying, let's look into this. What's going on here? What are they proposing? What's going to be on the ballot? How do I feel about this? So I
Mhm.
started looking and digging in, and that's kind of how I started. I started finding out things, and I actually formed an SPAC, which is a special action, no special it's it's one of those acronyms. Let me think about it for a minute. It's a special political it's a political action committee.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So
And
it's an
that
SPAC.
okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And it is Citizens Against JISD Bond 2022. So
Mhm.
it's an SPAC that I formed. And what you do when you want to oppose a measure, kind of quote officially, you file these papers with the Texas Ethics Commission, and you file them with the local entity that's running the election, which would be in this case the ISD. And then that goes to the Texas Ethics Commission. And then that allows you to be able to campaign against the bond. Of course, any citizen can campaign for and against a bond, of course, but that just kind of allows you to do that in an official capacity. So,
Right.
like when the election's going on, we can have a representative in there, to watch the vote counting. To if we want to recall, we can, call for a recall or a
Okay.
recount,
Mhm.
I should say, that thing. So that's a little bit about an SPAC. Um, After looking at this, let me tell you a little bit. There's two propositions on this bond. Proposition A is 84 million, 84,650 million. Okay, and then Proposition B is 12,850 million. And then Proposition A is for growth, safety, and district-wide improvements, and then Proposition B is for extracurricular programs. Basically, the main thing in the Prop B is the impact, the multi-purpose athletic complex is to expand that. And that's kind of like an indoor practice area,
Mhm.
practice field. The dance team uses it. I think I've been told the soccer team uses it, just kind of some of the groups there in the school. So that's what the bond proposal is. Okay. And that's what they're pushing for. Now, my goal in this is just to give the other side. They've sent out mailers and information about how this bond's going to benefit the community, but I want to make sure the public knows everything and the other side of the story that maybe they're not telling.
Mhm.
And I've encouraged everyone to do their own research, look up these stats for yourself, do the research, just make an informed decision. Okay. I'm not trying to sway anyone's votes, and say, vote this way or else or anything like that. My goodness. I just want everybody to make a very, very informed decision
Correct.
based on the facts. So,
Correct.
my feelings personally are we're coming out of a pandemic. The economy, I don't think anybody would argue with me that the economy is not too hot right now. It's not
Right.
great. Things are expensive. Our electric bills are, I know I have some friends whose electric bills have actually doubled lately because
Mhm.
we're still trying to pay for Snowmageddon from last year or whatever in
Right.
the world it is. So that's something people are struggling to pay bills. Okay. Then I started thinking, just because I have so much experience working with economically disadvantaged families, I thought, well, let me look up the stats on the ratio in Joshua.
Mhm.
Okay. And I'll tell you right now, I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked at the number of economically disadvantaged kids that JISD has. Um, I got on the TEA website, and that's Texas Education Agency. It's texasschools.org, and or I think .org, yeah. You can go on there, and there is, I mean, a treasure trove of data. It's just data, 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 and you can look up the schools, and it breaks them down. Excuse me, by every kind of demographic that you can
Mhm.
think of. And so I was specifically looking for economically disadvantaged kids, and
Uh-huh.
these are kids who are eligible for free or reduced lunch. Okay, and not
Right,
just
everybody is right now, but I mean,
right.
totally different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally different. um so I looked that up, and the percentage was 46.6% of Joshua
Man.
kids.
So can I ask you a question
Yeah,
right there?
sure.
So most of us are aware that Joshua is an open school district. So if I lived in Burleson and did not want my student to go to Burleson ISD, I could then go and apply to take that student to Joshua. The money doesn't follow, unfortunately, which hopefully that'll soon change.
Yeah, yeah.
But are is that just our socially disadvantaged students that actually live in Joshua?
That's what
Or
the
do we know that statistic?
I'm not sure. That those stats are reported by the ISD to the TEA.
Okay.
Okay. Now that figure I found, of course, there's a lag in reporting. Okay, so that was probably last year's figure.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, Joshua ISD did post something on Facebook after I had looked up those figures that said that the figure was 50.2% of our
Oh,
families
even
were
more.
economically disadvantaged. Yeah. So I was like, oh my gosh. I
If
honestly,
that's the truth, then we should be getting state money too.
yes, yes.
Okay.
So I was quite frankly just shocked at that. And I thought, I mean, I had to like wrap my head around that. And I thought, okay, so the ISD is pushing this bond, wanting us to do all this, and there are some things on here that I will never ever disagree with. The safety of the schools. There's like a vestibule at one of our elementary schools that's needed, so
Uh-huh.
that a visitor has to go through like a double lobby type thing and be buzzed in.
Right.
As a teacher, oh my goodness, I will vote for that all day
Yeah.
long because
Right.
that's a safety issue. And if
Right.
you don't feel safe and secure in your environment, number one, you can't teach, and number two, your kids can't learn. And with all the crazy in the world today, that's something I'm like, oh yeah, but let's look at some of this other stuff that maybe is not as important. Do all kids really need an expanded practice field, an indoor practice field? When people are struggling to put food on the table and pay their electric bills right now,
Mhm.
today, do we want to advocate for a tax increase for these families?
Right.
People have said, well, a lot of these people rent their tax, they don't even pay property taxes. Well, let's think about that for a minute. Who pays the property taxes on the property they live in?
Right.
Their landlords.
Which
And
means their rent will go up.
yes,
If it's the
so
apartment or
yes,
the house they're
right.
renting.
The rent's going to go up.
Right.
Okay. And then they said, well, it's not going to affect seniors over 65 because their property taxes are frozen. Okay. Well, what about seniors who live in some type of an apartment complex or a renting situation? The same thing's going to happen. Their rent's going to go up. What about seniors who own rental properties to
Right.
supplement their retirement? Their rent, their property taxes, that it's not maybe necessarily going to go up on their homestead, on their primary residence, but if they
But
own
the
other
rentals.
properties
Mhm.
to supplement their income, they're going to have a tax bill for that.
Right.
The ISD likes to point out that we have the third lowest.
Yeah, I was actually gonna bring that up.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, no, I was gonna say, what is the argument when you're looking at someone saying, well, Joshua's school taxes are low anyway, it wouldn't hurt. Or, I mean, gosh, look at Burleson. We're top of the list.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's talk about that.
Okay. They like to say that, oh, but we have the third lowest tax rate in the county, for the ISDs, and it's only 14 cents, and it's only $1.43 per 100,000 of your house, and all of this. But the bottom line is their tax bill is going
Mhm.
to increase.
Right.
Okay. It doesn't negate the fact that the taxes will increase.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. It may be the lowest rate around or the third lowest rate around or whatever they're trying to say, but your tax bill is going to go up.
Right.
Another thing they like to say is if you have, and that's a lot of that's because of your home appraisals or your
Mhm.
property appraisals. And they say, well, that's because of that. You need to take it up with the Central Appraisal District.
Right.
Okay. Well, that to me is passing the buck. Okay. The Central
Mhm.
Appraisal District is a whole nother ball of wax. I mean, that's a whole nother
Right.
problem. And then I've had people tell me, well, then you need to go down there and take it up with them. Well, I have. I've been down there in
Right.
front of them. I went down in front of their board and I spoke to them. It's usually always a hard no. No, this
Mhm.
is the way it is. This is your tax. This is what you're going to pay.
Mhm.
Okay. So, yes, it is a problem with the appraisals, but the appraisals for this year, or I guess last year, but they're just now coming out now. They're trickling out now. I haven't
Mhm.
gotten mine yet, but just talking to friends all over Texas, the ones that have gotten theirs, they're like way higher than before. Okay. So just be ready when Johnson County gets ready to send theirs.
Oh yeah.
Get ready for the shock. But again, that doesn't negate the fact that, okay, yeah, we have a problem here. They shouldn't be doing this, but why add on to that problem?
Right.
Why add more tax to what they're taxing? And we're going to be taxed until we can't afford it. I've had seniors contact me and say, or even not even seniors, just let's say some retirees that maybe are in their 50s, like me. I mean, I retired at the age of 53.
Mhm.
So I mean, I'm still, got my side hustle, but and I'm still teaching, working with kids and stuff, but
Right.
it's like, yeah, your taxes are going to go up. Okay.
Mhm.
And I've had people tell me they've literally been taxed out of their homes.
So listening on the drive-in, and I'm listening to you, and how important is it for people to understand for renters? That really is huge. I mean, you brought up such a good point. Yes, they do pay property taxes,
Right.
but they're paying through the cost of their rent, and it will go up.
Yes.
This will cost
absolutely.
somebody's paying it.
Yes.
It's not that it's not being paid. Somebody's paying
Somebody's
it.
paying it. Yeah.
And it's the same thing, even with businesses that own property. I mean,
Yep.
when our rent goes up on our building, we have to pass that on somewhere.
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
has to be paid for.
Right.
And so that's a really, really good point. I was thinking about it, and I think we talked about this, I don't know, last week or a couple weeks ago when I was on the committee for the bond for Burleson for
Okay.
BISD. And I started to think back because there was I think 300 of us that were on that committee.
Wow.
And I'm starting to think about picturing the room and what was the age ratio that was in that room?
Interesting.
Were they targeting 65 and older, giving that idea that, hey, yours isn't going to go up anyway,
Yeah.
but we still got to take care of the kids? We see that complaint quite often from people who are over
Mhm.
65 going, I don't even have kids in the school district and I'm still having
Right.
to pay for this.
Yeah.
I get that. I mean, I do get that complaint. It's valid.
Mhm.
The trade-off is we want these kids to have a good education and to have a good experience, that they want to stay in the area, work here, or start a business here. But if they can't afford to stay here,
Right.
Right.
you have a whole nother issue.
Yes.
I did not know. It's another thing that you were talking about before I came in. I did not know that Joshua was an open campus. Why are they an open campus? If the tax dollars aren't following to their school district, why are they remaining an open campus?
That I honestly don't know the answer to that. I will say, right now, that's not that's not something I've studied. So
I don't want to
know.
throw you under the bus on that at all.
Yeah.
I really want us to find out
Wow,
about that.
I thought everybody knew that.
I
I
don't
didn't know
know.
that.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. And
I've-
a lot of people do like going to Joshua
Oh yeah,
when
absolutely.
it comes to looking at some of the stuff we're dealing with in Burleson. A lot of Burleson people, even Burleson teachers, have left to go to Joshua. It's sad. I mean, teachers that I know that have taught in Burleson for years and years have moved to Joshua or Mansfield. But I mean, something's definitely going on.
Can I have one of those?
So,
All right, so let's go back to this because I kind of sidebarred you, but I didn't know it was an open campus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know those particulars, so that's not something I've studied. So
Yeah.
us,
Okay.
I will now.
yes, it is an open campus.
I do research.
And yeah, our
so-
stuff does not follow. So,
Okay. Okay. That's very interesting. But yeah, back to the rent and somebody's going to have to absorb these costs. So, if it is a business owner, they're in the ISD, which I have talked to several. I have a couple of people I know that don't live in the ISD, but their businesses are in the
Right.
ISD. Just think about how their taxes are going to go up and they're going to pass those costs along to the customer.
exactly.
So if you're going down to get your, whatever, your tea or your coffee or your oil changed or whatever, that's going to go up.
Mhm.
It's just like a snowball effect.
Right.
So, and
Nothing's free.
right.
Well,
Nothing's free. If it's even looking at the Burleson City Bond. Yeah, it's not technically going to affect your property. We know it's not going to affect your property taxes, but it's going to affect us somewhere.
Yes.
It has to be paid for somewhere. So someone's paying for it. And it's just a reminder to keep those things. Now, I'm for the city bond. It's things that are needed. But we won't talk about that one today. We're all about the school. So
and it just something that does bother me, and I know you don't have a lot of knowledge on it because I asked you earlier, because it wasn't, we got some information from a very valid source in Joshua that said that y'all have this huge ag complex, and there's 4 ag people using it.
for students,
4 students.
but we haven't confirmed that.
Okay.
It's
I've
not
heard
been
that.
confirmed,
I've
but
heard that too,
when
but I don't know.
I did bring it up at a forum that the bond was being talked about. Actually, I did not know that person was going to be talking about the bond. I just asked how would they better utilize that ag building, because there's so many other things that could be done in there to utilize. I think it's $4 million. Wasn't it?
It was a $4 million building.
And I guess that was on the last bond.
Yeah, 2015. That
Mhm.
came
And,
about in 2015.
2015, and
Yep.
and if that is true, there's only 4 ag people, which I do find that hard to believe because there's a lot of ag in
Oh,
Joshua.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's 100% true. I would like someone to show me the statistics,
Yeah.
not tell me that's not true.
I
Yeah.
do have an open records request out with
Yes.
JISD for
Mhm.
that, all of that information,
Right.
amongst other information,
Just-
and I was hoping to have it before you came on.
Right.
So I was a little, but they got 10 days. They're going to take 10 days.
Right,
So,
right. Oh,
um,
yes, they will.
But these are things still, I mean, you have to be able
You
to
think
just,
about, I mean, here, 2015, there was a bond with this ag building, and how are we utilizing this building correctly? I mean, there's so many other ways they could do things
Oh, yeah.
that would benefit our students and
The
even probably the
program.
community.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And now they're asking for another bunch of money.
Well,
So-
that's one of my problems with this bond as well, is because we have still current debt of over 90 million. Okay, so we already have current debt of over 90 million from past
Mhm.
bonds or whatnot, and they're asking for 90 plus million more. If you add principal or interest to that, we're looking at $250 million in debt,
Right.
and to saddle up with these kids who, like I said, 50.2% are from families who cannot pay their bills now. They're struggling right now.
Mhm.
And then they like to say, but it's for the kids. You don't care about the kids if you don't vote
Which
for
is
this.
not
Which
true.
is not true. My heart is for these kids.
Coming
just-
from 2 former teachers,
Exactly.
we're saying
Exactly.
not being for a bond does not mean you aren't caring for the students.
Right. And I
the
don't like
children.
I don't like the way that the bond steering committee was handpicked. The public was not invited to be at the table. The meetings were closed to the public. So there was no public input.
Right. But there was handpicked people.
Really?
Yes.
How many
yes.
people were on the committee?
I want to say 52, 50-ish.
And
Okay.
some of them, I'm just going to say this. I know one of them is also running for a place,
Yes.
and he was on the bond. And then he spoke about the bond at that forum.
Yes, he's running for school board.
Yeah.
place. Yeah.
we're going to go to a break and we'll
Okay.
be right back. Stay with us.
Abnormal realities.
I love my mom.
Yep. She sent me a message.
My mom did?
Yeah, Wednesday night. And she invited me over tomorrow night to watch Titanic and share a bowl of popcorn. And I accepted.
You did?
Yep.
That'd be fun.
And she calls it Chaps Only Night every Saturday night.
Look,
Miss Dixie,
Look,
how you doing? He said, it's my mom, bro. All right, it's my mom.
I want to hear the answer to the Titanic and popcorn. Go ahead, Mom. What's up?
Oh!
Hi, boys.
Hi,
I just
Mom.
wanted to ask Rocky if he wanted butter on that popcorn or not.
Oh,
I
my
would rather
God.
have the butter somewhere else, but if popcorn's the only place I can have it, I'll take it.
Jeez,
Hey,
dude.
nobody says I can't roll around in it for a little bit.
All right, Mom.
That is my
Love
girl.
you.
I love you,
Mom.
Dixie.
Abnormal realities
My mom. Love you.
Dixie.
Bye. I love you too.
with Ron and Rocky. Weekdays, 4 p.m. and 10 p.m. on JoCo Community Radio.
Holy crap.
Hey, there's something you forgot to do. It sure is hot. Are you sweating like a dog? Wait, what? Dogs don't sweat. Oh no, you forgot to get your window tinted. Whether it's the kitchen window that sits in the sun for the hottest part of the day, or you just got new wheels, call Sharp Window Tinting in Burleson. 817-615-9379, or look them up on the web, sharpwindowtint.com.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395.
Welcome back to the second half of JoCo Vibes here on JoCo Community Radio. JoCo Community Radio is proud to be the voice of Johnson County, Texas, and is live 365 on the TuneIn Radio Network. To listen or watch, simply go to tuneinjoco.com to choose where and how. The JoCo Community Radio app is now available for free on Android and Apple devices. Simply search your store, and you can take us anywhere and everywhere on the go. When we don't have talk shows, we are streaming Texas artists. From all over, and a lot of local artists. So check out our lineup and more on JoCoCommunityRadio.com. This episode and more brought to you by Patriot Claims, making your insurance work for you. Storms happen, hail happens. You got to have someone ready to advocate for you with your insurance company. Reach out to your local Texas sales rep, Nona Reed, and get her in your corner before the next storm hits. Call toll free 844-TEX-HAIL. That's 844-839-4245. Welcome back. I'm Tiffany Carlin with Nona Reed and the amazing Georgia Wright Head. Thank you for joining us this morning. So glad you said yes.
Thank you.
I know it's your first time on the radio, but
Yes.
we're just, what I love about radio is we're just talking.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a conversation. You're extremely informed on the school bond issue that's coming up for Joshua ISD here in Johnson County. And you guys have had a great conversation while I was driving in and got to hear a lot of some things that I didn't know. Number one, that Joshua is an open campus. I'm super curious. Oh, you're getting some information on the open campus.
So I went to the Joshua website.
Okay.
Update as of 8/18/2021, so beginning of school year. Due to space availability, Joshua ISD is not accepting any new transfer applications. During the school year, the district leaders will monitor numbers. If space becomes available, we will then consider reopening the transfer application process. And it says Joshua ISD inter-district transfer application.
Okay.
right.
So if we're growing so much, then let's just keep it like it used to be.
Right.
And it just be for Joshua
Mhm.
kids.
And close the campuses.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, truthfully, I mean, the thing that I am interested in researching on the open campus platform is if tax dollars are not transferring over to that school district, is that school district getting any type of state funding that balances that out? So I'm
Yeah.
gonna research it
Okay.
and let you guys know what I find out about that. But I am really curious. If anybody
I'm
happens
curious
to know
too,
the answer
yeah.
to that question, feel free to reach
Right.
out and school me,
Yes,
if you
me
will.
too. Me too.
I wonder who will call.
I mean, it's just, it's a very interesting, it's an interesting concept. I get the need for having it, or the positive aspects to having an open campus. I just don't know how it benefits a school district.
Well, especially if we're experiencing the growing pains. I mean, if we're having trouble now with growing pains, then let's not be taking in any kids who don't live here.
So good to know that as
Yeah,
of the
very
beginning
good
of
to
this
know.
school year that they did close the
Right.
open
Yeah.
campus.
But how
So-
many kids are currently enrolled that don't live
Right.
in the district?
Right.
I mean, I
Yep.
don't mean any, I don't mean to go in there and kick out anybody, but let's be real.
These are all valid questions.
Yeah, I come from a district where it was very imperative that you had to live in the district to go to school there.
Mhm.
And if we found out that you didn't, and it was, investigated, you were eventually asked to go back to your home school. Because, the school is for the kids in the district.
Right. It is. Well, and tax dollars matter.
Right.
And
right.
state funding matters,
Right.
federal funding matters. These are all things that are important. And I sometimes you don't want to say things like this, but this is the reality of it. It is public school has become a business.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
And
Yes.
way too political.
Yes.
Very
Oh,
way
much
too political.
so.
This is
Yes.
about the education of our children. This is not about politics, or it should not be about politics. It should not
Correct.
be about positions of power
Right.
from people who have been sitting on
Absolutely.
school boards for way longer
Yes.
than they should be.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I
Yes.
don't know why someone who, I appreciate the passion of former educators,
Yes.
because that to me is the people who belong in these types of positions.
Mhm.
I believe in term limits across the board.
Yeah,
So
oh gosh, me
it doesn't
too.
even
Yeah,
matter.
from the top down.
Thank
Yeah.
you thank you for wanting to serve.
Yes.
But from the bottom up and the top down, you have to have term limits.
Yes. For all offices.
For all
political
offices. And that includes any elected position.
Yes.
Any
Right.
elected position should have term limits, and that includes on the school board. Otherwise, you've got people who are way too comfy and they become
Mhm.
friends.
Yeah. And I
Yep.
think our founding fathers actually intended that to be
They
all
did.
elected officials to be rotating positions.
Absolutely.
And I'm a strict constitutionalist. I mean,
Yes.
let's do it this way. I'm not saying anybody's doing anything illegal or wrong, but sometimes things just don't look good.
It does get comfortable.
Yes.
I'll refer back to, because I watched last night's Burleson City Council meeting, and to hear one of the councilmen who's been on there for a very long time, way too long in my opinion, say, "Well, is this going to be a long presentation?"
Yeah.
How dare you? You have a meeting once a month. And this is the purpose of the meeting:
If you
is
don't
to
like
have
it,
these
get off.
to have these open meetings. It's not nap time. It's time to step into the role, have these open conversations, because that's the goal of an open meeting, is to speak publicly to the public so that they understand what is going on and what you're about to vote on and decisions that you're making for a city. So how dare you, as an elected official, say, "Can we hurry this up?
Oh, well, exactly.
I got to get to bed.
I spoke at the board.
my nap time.
I spoke at the
bedtime.
school board meeting last night, and my last comment, I wanted to make that point that elected officials serve at the pleasure of the people who elected them.
Right.
This is
People have forgotten that.
Yes.
even on the school, and we've discussed this about BISD, and I believe this is the same for JISD and any other school district. I think parents have they've been put into a position to where they're very intimidated by school administration to
Mhm.
think that we are at their beck and call, that we are succumb to their rules and their requirements. Now, I'm not talking state requirements. I'm not talking TEA and that type of stuff. I'm talking about campus type of rules that are made up strictly by a school district. And I think what happens is, and especially this goes back to people being in seats way too long, is that you forget that the people are over you. The parents are over you.
Right,
The
right.
taxpayers
It's also hard to
are
get
over you.
voted out in certain school districts.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
That's in
Yeah.
but it's in every school
right,
district.
but
I mean,
that's what I'm
truly,
saying. We call them elected officials. Are they really? Because I mean,
this is the politics of it.
we can say Burleson hasn't had a school election in at least 2 years because they throw out their candidates.
Right.
So, I mean, so really the people sitting there are not really elected. The
Right.
school, they were elected
A long time
maybe
ago.
15 years ago.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's go back to Joshua because I do want to break this.
I am looking into that funding right now,
Okay.
though, to see.
I want to. Can we break this down just a
Sure.
little bit more? I know you were saying Proposition A is for $84,650,000. That Prop A is based on growth. They needing a new elementary school, Nichols Middle School addition, high school expansion, CTE program expansion, high school north gym locker room and gym renovations, fine arts storage for band and theater, upgrade district fuel station, purchase property for future school sites. All right. Can we talk growth first?
Sure.
Right now, currently there are 22 actively building subdivisions in Joshua ISD and 17 future subdivisions planned. At some point, Joshua's growth is going to be stunted. It's going to stop it because Joshua is sandwiched. They're landlocked.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're landlocked. So it's not that Joshua's going to be able to gobble up, something extra. At some point, it's going to be hindered unless they open the campus back up.
Yeah. Right.
Of course. And again, that would be a foolish thing to do, especially if you already have growth issues. So that's my opinion on that, is that at some point you can only grow so far. So why would a school district already be planning for future purchases of sites? Do they have something more projected beyond 17, beyond these 22 and then 17 subdivisions?
I'm not exactly sure. I have done an open records request for some of that information. I haven't received it just yet because it hasn't been within the 10 days. I do know, I have been told that the ISD does already own some property that is not yet developed. I've asked for records on that so I could get the specifics. And I've been told that these are 10-year projections. They had a demographer come in and, work on 10-year projections. But, this is a demographer that works with a lot of the bonds, for different school districts. So I've asked for records on that as well. And I've already been told by somebody that's familiar with planning and zoning that some of these additions going in that they're including in their figures are not even slated to have their sewer and those kind of things installed until 2024. So we're looking at something that's, not immediate.
Mhm.
Okay. And then anecdotally, I mean, these aren't, hard facts, but, people say, well, drive around and look at all the houses going in. Okay. Well, we're not thinking about empty nesters. We're not thinking about people with no children. We're not thinking about all the families that homeschool, which is becoming
A
a
huge
huge thing.
Mhm.
I can't tell you how many people that I go to church with, because I do go to a large church, who have children in the district who homeschool.
Right.
My neighbors down the street, they send their kids to private school. I mean, so we're not taking into account, not all of these houses are going to have kids in
Correct.
school. So we can't say, oh, well, go drive around and just look. That's,
I think too, we do have to, I mean, where is the projection or the possibility or the discussion of the possibility of, your property taxes, your school of choice?
yeah.
That happens. So all these people who have homeschooled their kids or who are also waiting to homeschool their kids, waiting on school of choice to come in, because when that does happen, and I do believe that's going to happen at some point.
Yes,
I do
I
too.
really
I
do
do
believe
too.
that's a lot
Hopefully
of
sooner than later.
Yeah.
that's a lot of money that's going to be pulled away from that school.
Yes.
As it should be. If you're homeschooling your child, your tax dollars should be going towards paying
Your curriculum.
your
Yeah.
curriculum.
Right, because some of those
and
curriculums you
what
have to pay for.
same thing if
Yeah.
you're paying for private school. If you're paying for private school, your tax dollars should go to that school.
Yes.
So, that's something that we have to look at too, that when that does happen, that's going to greatly affect a school district. It's going to affect the bond money
The
and
numbers,
how it's
yep.
going to be paid for. So things to think about as well. Prop A is also going towards safety, secured vestibule at Elder Elementary. I heard you talking about that. It
Yeah.
is something that's needed
Yes.
and important. Again, why aren't we just budgeting some of this through maintenance
Right.
already?
Well, and I guess my whole bottom line problem is, why wasn't the community asked to participate in making these plans?
I
Why
agree.
weren't all families represented? Because I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say security is the most important thing for these kids. Also, I'm a CTE, career and technical education. My bachelor's degree is a CTE program. Okay, I'm a career and technical education proponent. You will not find a person more CTE. I mean, I can be just as passionate about, let's train kids to go into the workforce instead of college. I mean, that's another one. I will stand on that mountain and fight it. Okay. So I am all for these CTE programs. Okay. I have taught CTE in Title I schools for well over 20 years. Okay. Let's train these kids. A better educated
Absolutely.
society is a better society. College is not for everyone. Okay. But they're saying that these programs need to be expanded. We need to provide these opportunities to these kids. We have that now. We're providing kids. I have a friend whose daughter just graduated with 20 some odd college credit. Okay.
Right.
I have another friend who graduated their child with an industry certification, was able to go right into the workforce. Okay. So we're offering those things right now. I'm being told there's waiting lists to get into these programs and that we need to expand them. Now, my question is this waiting list because these people live out of district?
Or is it a waiting list because there's not enough teachers?
Yes. Oh,
And-
that's okay. Let me make that point.
Okay.
I didn't mean to go off on the CTE thing because I'm very, very passionate about that. But I'm going to tell you right now, colleges are not training the number of CTE teachers that they used to train. Okay. My alma mater has completely shut down their CTE program. They do not crank out CTE teachers.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know exactly. That's, like I said, a whole nother ball of wax that I don't have
You're going to
time.
have to look into that and
I
come
am.
back and talk about that
Right.
for sure, because I'm really curious to see what the answer is.
Yeah. My degree is vocational home economics education. Now, that was back in the day. It's called family and consumer science now. So anytime you see these hospitality programs, food service programs, food science, any of that, that's my wheelhouse. Okay. All I know is there are colleges that are not offering those teacher education programs like they were years ago.
Do you feel, and I don't, I actually, JISC does have a culinary,
They do.
they have a culinary arts
Yes,
program,
a
which I
very
think
good
is
one. Yeah.
absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
I've
Yes.
I missed an event where they were actually the ones
Well, they
that
catered
served.
at the.
Were they the ones that catered Cleburne?
No, that was Cleburne.
That was Cleburne.
Sorry.
They've got
Yeah,
a culinary program.
That's
Wrong
an
one.
excellent program. I mean,
Yes.
those kids can learn skills that they can go right out and get a job.
Mhm.
Those are the things that we need.
Yes.
We're in a critical point. Less and less kids are going to college.
Right.
And
Because it's not for everybody.
it's not. I'm one of them.
Yes.
I did not go to college. I went into the corporate world, and it's just a whole other conversation. But I climbed the corporate ladder, and I very well.
Yes.
There are skills that you can gain from continuing education from corporations. There's outside continuing education courses that you can take. There's certification programs that you can take. It's really difficult sometimes as a parent to think, okay, I just busted my butt all these years, just put money away so that my kid go to college, and then they don't. I've got one. It's in the she's in the waiting right now. She's an assistant manager in the food service industry, and that's where she wants to be right now. And she might go to school next year. And I've got one who's like, he wants to go to technical training school.
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
That's perfect.
It's totally okay. You could take those funds that you set aside for school and pay for
yes,
that.
or pay for some kind of certification that he may need.
Absolutely.
Our
Absolutely.
30-year-old was dead set against going to college, which is fine.
Yeah.
But now he's going back.
But
Yeah.
he just got accepted and he's going to be doing, I guess, biblical study.
Oh, that's excellent.
I know. I'm so excited for him.
You know, I want to
He's
say
done
this
all
really
this
quick.
work.
If you have money in a school fund for your child, and they don't go to college right away, that doesn't mean you need to take that money out and go spend it somewhere else. Hang on to
like
it.
I said, he's 30 now.
Yeah.
And he's decided he wants to go to college now.
Yeah,
But that's okay.
hang on to it. That fund is still making money.
Right.
So that's just want to throw that out there. All right.
Well, and that's, my boys are like that. I've got my 30-year-old is a Pharm D. Okay. He loves school. He went to school for over 8 years. He's a highly trained professional. Our youngest is a sophomore in college, and he's like, I'm not sure college is for me. And I'm like, that's okay. You don't have to be like your brother.
Right.
There are other things out there. So yeah, I'm a big CTE proponent.
I love it. So the other thing on the safety for the JISD, technology upgrades, including vape detectors. I'm so intrigued by this because I did not know that there was something that could detect vapes.
I honestly don't know about that either. And as a teacher, I will say I remember sitting in a faculty meeting where our when the vape pens and the cartridges and all of those things started hitting and became very, very popular. He picked them up. He said he went through all of our classrooms over the weekend and picked up vape cartridges and everything, and he stapled them to a piece of cardboard or he taped them, and he passed it around and he said, what do y'all think these are? And we were all like, well, they're thumb drives.
Well, I don't.
So, it was like, y'all need to be watching out for this stuff. These kids are vaping in your rooms and you don't even know it.
No, because we think it's a thumb drive.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I thought that was something computer,
They're in hoodie strings now.
Yeah.
Okay. See,
They're in all
it's
different
like,
kind of
yeah.
pins.
Yeah. Anything to keep our kids addicted.
Yeah. So, and I think that's wrong, and that's a whole nother problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, if there is such a thing as a vape
detector.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Fire alarm replacements. Again, I would think that this would be something that would be covered under general maintenance, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert in this area, so so I don't know. Maybe it's something I'd have to look into. Also, district-wide improvements, electrical upgrades, kitchen and cafeteria updates, AC unit and roof replacements, paving and improvements. Now, this is a mailer that went out from the Joshua ISD. So,
yes.
What I don't like about this is that where's the comprehensive breakdown of it? I'm sure there is one somewhere. I did include a link here. If you're watching on any of the streaming, you can. I posted. So anybody who's listening on the radio, go to joshuaisd.org/bond 2022. And it should give a full breakdown. I haven't gone to the website myself to look at it. But I will, because I do want to see how thorough of a breakdown they actually give. Is it a detailed, breakdown, like we need this much for the fire alarms and this much for that? I know that when I was on the BISD bond committee, we had a binder that fully broke down everything and gave everything. But like you said, we had 300 on that committee.
Wow.
You only had 52.
Yeah.
And closed door.
Something. Yeah. And it was closed door.
And we're also finding out there's a lot of people that have correlation. Like they might be
already
somehow tied
there's a lot
to
of
having
overlap.
advantages if this bond passes. So it's just sad.
I
mean, but it happens everywhere.
I want to point out, because you said that the website, the JISD website, does have a tab for the bond, and there is a plus sign, I believe, far over to the right. And if you click that, all kinds of information drops down.
Far to the right?
Yeah,
I'm on it right
like
now.
a plus sign. See if there's a plus sign. That's like the drop down menu. There is a sample ballot, and that was another one thing I wanted to point out. The sample ballot is the actual legal document when you were voting for this bond. That is the actual legal document, and it does not give a breakdown on there. So the legal document is not breaking it down. It's just like, here's what you're voting on.
Yeah, that kind of it's on the website. It just says what's in the bond. So it's not really broke down either.
And the ballot does say, because that's required by law, this will be a tax increase. Okay, so rest assured, if this passes, your tax bill will go up.
Have you seen? There was a gentleman who posted, because Granbury's they've got a bond on their election
New high school
this year too for Granbury High School. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And they gave a great comparison. I'm curious if you've seen it.
I have not.
They gave a great comparison of what the current property tax rate comparison is for, gosh, I don't know. I think they had like 15 to 20 different school districts on there. I was trying to pull it up really quick, but I don't know where I saved it. And so it was showing Burleson's at the top of the list.
Because someone
And
in Burleson said, would
Yeah.
this be something you would want to be top of the list for?
Right. And the answer is
no.
no.
So it's,
You actually have it. You have
yeah,
it there.
I mean, it's got Burleson, Godley, Crowley, West Settlement.
So what I
but
wanted to see was
Joshua,
I think so. Granbury's point of making this one is that they're really low on the property tax valuation comparison chart per $100 is what they have here. Burleson is at the top. Joshua's roughly in the middle at $1.29 per $100 of property valuation.
Okay.
So do they break this out as to exactly what the increase is going to be?
They have it on the website. There is a tax calculator on there in that drop down where you can put the value of your house and it will give you the monthly amount. Because they like to say, I've been told, oh, well, it's the amount that you're paying monthly to help these kids is only the cost of a gym membership. Well, I mean, I know people that can't afford a gym membership right now.
right.
That's
or have cut out gym memberships because they can't afford to pay their bills.
that is not a necessity.
Right.
That's
and that was another thing I brought up.
it's not a need, it's a want.
Yes, I teach. I've always taught in my classes and in my past career, needs versus wants. What are wants and what are needs? What do we really need right now when the economy's bad, when things in the world are uncertain? Just things like that. So
I think the uncertainty part is the most important thing. Do we and the need versus want.
Mhm.
And you hear so many parents talk about their teenagers, putting the wants before the needs.
Right,
Very
right.
typical.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
typical. It's
Exactly,
a normal.
yeah.
It's a normal thing. Your kid's
Human nature.
not special.
Right.
if that's an issue for them, they're not special. Needs versus wants. But are we setting our kids up to teach them to go for the want versus the need?
Right.
And are we? I believe in the importance of extracurricular activities more on the music and art side than the sports side. People want to say, well, the activity, all of that. Yes, totally agree with that too. But that's why I think gym class should also be a required thing until you completely graduate.
Yes.
You should have to be in motion at some point during the day.
Right.
So we don't need to be paying astronomical amounts of money for football.
Yeah.
That is
Because not all kids benefit from that.
No.
It's just a handful.
no. And we have schools now where, they're if they want to go to Realm, you can't be a part of music or sports.
Yeah.
So there's a lot there. Thank you for joining us and breaking this down with us. I'd love to
You're
have you back on.
Okay, sure.
And we break this down a little bit deeper even.
Okay.
Maybe
sure.
answer some of the other questions we couldn't.
Absolutely.
And there is grants. I found it on the TEA website for inter-district.
Have an amazing day. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning. God bless.
Bye-bye.
From Burleson to Venus and Grandview to Godley, this is the voice of Johnson County. JoCo Community Radio.